Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
The NGSC Radio Network, in conjunction with the Happy Hour Network, are proud to bring you the only show that matters with your host, the Heartthrob G.W. Gras, and the future of all sports media, Joe Wedra. Bear witness.
Yeah. What's going on? You are now tuned into the only show that matters. I am the Heartthrob G.W. Gras, and with me this week to discuss college and NFL stuff. I'm so professional. College and NFL football talk is my man, the future of all sports media, Joe Wedra, who is on location right now. Joe, you're on the move right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Hey, stuff is okay, too, by the way. Stuff is whenever I don't have anything to say, I just say stuff. So that works. But, yeah, I'm sitting in an airport. I was almost late, actually, because I was in the line ordering this white chocolate mocha drink, and they were taking long. So I said, hey, you got to hurry up for my man G so I can get on the show. It's not worth a white chocolate mocha.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, though, man. If you need that chocolate mocha, but before you hit the road. Meanwhile, you're going in the air. You're not hitting any road. I mean, you're hitting a runway.
Exactly.
I mean, count that as a road, but you count that as a road, but whatever. A lot going on in the NFL and college world, but I wanted to go first. When we start talking about last week's game, I wanted to go to the Denver Broncos game where the Kansas City Chiefs proved that Andy Reid is he's a force within himself when it comes to playing a team after a bye week. I don't know what he does for those 2 weeks. He just crams like the biggest nerd ever. And the Kansas City Chiefs crushed the Denver Broncos 29-13. But the story over here was that Peyton Manning looked awful. After he broke Brett Favre's record for most passing yards, just looked terrible. Was it 4 interceptions? Got benched in favor of Brock Osweiler. I think that's how you pronounce the kid's name from Arizona State. But Peyton looks terrible, and they're saying he has a foot injury now, questionable for this week. If I'm the Denver Broncos, honestly, Joe, I think enough. And you got to see what Brock has. I mean, because it can't be worse, honestly, than what Peyton's doing right now.
Yeah, well, you're right about Andy Reid, too. I mean, it's almost borderline Belichickian. I mean, what he does after the bye week is pretty impressive, and you really got to give him credit for that. I think a lot of that just has to do with how long he's been in the league, and a lot of that helps. But, yeah, when you look at the Broncos situation right now, it's kind of funny to compare Peyton Manning to Johnny Manziel and the situation you have in Cleveland, but it's almost like that because, like we saw the Browns make the situation to go to Manziel, you kind of have to do the same thing here with Denver in a sense. You got to see what you have for the future because you know, just like Josh McCown, Peyton Manning is not going to be the guy there in Denver much longer, possibly not after this year. So it's a good decision that probably had to be made, and I think they knew that. It is similar to that Cleveland situation because I think at this point for the Broncos, while you want to win this year, you almost have to go towards the future just to see what you have.
Yeah, I mean, they brought Peyton to Denver with the thoughts of winning a Super Bowl, but it looks like what may hold them back is Peyton Manning right now. So that's got to be messing with their heads right now, especially with John Elway's head. But when you look at Denver, though, their running game is still very suspect on offense. And I mean, I've been saying Ronnie Hillman's the guy you should go with for the whole game. You shouldn't be a split back. I think Ronnie Hillman's just a better back. But yeah, I mean that Denver defense, was put in bad spots continuously against Kansas City's offense. Not like Kansas City blows people away with their offense either. But Alex Smith had a good game, but. What do you see from the Chiefs moving forward?
Well, I think that's an interesting debate because when you look at that AFC right now, and obviously they're probably not going to win the division. You got to give that to Denver. But at this point, when you look at the AFC, you have so many bad teams right now that it's very possible that an 8-8, 9-7 team is going to take that 6th seed, even a 5th seed. I mean, we don't have a team right now that's really jumping out and standing, hey, I'm going to be that first wild card seed. I don't think you have a team like that right now. So when I look at Kansas City, I understand that they've gone through some ups and downs early in the season, majority downs, but they have a long road ahead of them. They piled up some wins, and now if you can keep this streak going and knock out a couple wild card contenders on the way, I don't see why they can't get the 6th seed just because you have. I mean, right now it's the Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets really in the lead for that wild card spot, and I think that says something. When you look at Pittsburgh, they're in it as well, but they have a tough schedule. We would normally put Baltimore in that race, but, I mean, they have 7 losses now. I'm not saying that can't happen, but it's just right now the Chiefs have a better shot than anybody, so I think this is a huge win and probably a big momentum boost moving forward.
The Washington Redskins put a whooping on New Orleans, 47-14, and any time the Washington Redskins put 47 points up against your defense, you should fire your defensive coordinator, which is what New Orleans did. Now, that's one coordinator getting fired from another bad performance. When will the Baltimore Ravens decide to move on from Mark Trestman? As the Baltimore Ravens failed to beat Jacksonville 22-20, they couldn't put up more than 20 points against Jacksonville's defense, which is pretty much you could light up Jacksonville's defense, it looks like, week after week. I'm really disappointed with Baltimore this year, and I'm not saying that because you're my friend. I really am, because I really thought this is a team that could be that wild card team that could push for an AFC championship game, and everything fell apart for them this year.
Yeah, well, when you say you're disappointed, imagine how Ravens fans feel. I mean, at this point, you're sitting in a situation where, and you can't just blame Mark Trestman. I mean, I think that had a lot to do with it. But when you look at the offense, they just haven't been clutch. I mean, early in the game against Jacksonville, there were 3 situations where they started at the 50-yard line or roughly around, and they just couldn't get anything going. They couldn't get in the field position at home, nonetheless, and couldn't just make the 10, 20 yards. You're at a point now where you just have to get a first down here or there, and sometimes that'll spark your drive, especially when you're close to field position. But now, with Mark Trestman at the helm, it seems like Joe Flacco's progression has slowed down, and I think we're seeing a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Gary Kubiak really knew what to do with Flacco, but now you see him in a situation with Trestman where they're just not converting those third downs. And I think with a quarterback's progression, even though Flacco is in his prime, quote-unquote, progressing and making those third down plays are what the best do in the NFL. And right now I think not only is that Mark Trestman's biggest problem, but I think that's the Ravens' biggest flaw as they move into the stretch. It's the reason they're 2-7.
I told people I'm excited about the Oakland Raiders' future, but I'm not totally jumping on it right now because their defense is really, especially their secondary, it's just not there yet. I like everything I'm seeing from Derek Carr. I'm not a big fan of Latavius Murray, but the Minnesota Vikings, they beat them 30-14. I still don't know what Minnesota does well, Joe. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, well, the thing right now with Minnesota, when you watch the game against Oakland, and I really hadn't got to see Minnesota a lot this year, but I just noticed Adrian Peterson really looked back to his peak. I mean, when you looked at the way he was running the ball against Oakland, and look, that's not saying much against the Raiders, but when you looked at the way he was running the ball, it was very impressive, and it looked like vintage Adrian Peterson, and that's what's going to carry them. For me, when I look at a young team like that who potentially has a shot to go all the way, what you really need for Teddy Bridgewater is a strong defense and a strong running game. If that defense can continue to pinpoint, their flaws on defense and continue to improve, I think they have a very good shot. And the biggest thing with these young quarterbacks is that they don't have to be perfect, but they need things to rely on. And right now, I think Minnesota has that in Adrian Peterson. As long as he can stay healthy, I think this team has enough to make a run. I think they can certainly compete with a team like Carolina. We'll see what they can do against a high-scoring team against Green Bay if they ever come around. But I like the upward trend that Minnesota's on right now because you have a young quarterback that has the tools around him to thrive off of and to really, go to when he's not having his best game. That's the biggest thing for these young quarterbacks, and I think Minnesota has that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Green Bay, and Green Bay on a 3-game schneid right now, and everybody was able to make excuses before. They played against Carolina, undefeated team. They played against a then undefeated Denver Broncos team. Both teams have stellar defenses that they went up against, and now they go against Detroit. Detroit beats them by 2 points. And sure, Green Bay came back, but it wasn't really that Green Bay was playing so well to come back. Detroit is terrible, And not for nothing, and I'm not saying this as a Chicago Bears fan. Aaron Rodgers, something doesn't look right. And I know his offensive line isn't good. He's getting no help from the running game. His receivers are not as good as we thought without Jordy Nelson being the number one there, let's be honest. You see a lot of drop passes from Randall Cobb. Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams. He isn't bad. He isn't good. He's pretty much just all right. But there was a lot of bad passes from Aaron Rodgers, especially on the out routes. He wasn't hitting the sidelines correctly. And I'm not a football analyst type of guy. And I noticed that, Joe. So do you think there could be something like Aaron Rodgers is hurt and not saying anything because he is taking a lot of hits behind this offensive line, or could this just be a bad 3-game losing streak?
Well, hey, it's interesting you say that because when you look around the NFL right now, it's a lot of quarterbacks getting hurt. I mean, you look at the situation with Andrew Luck. Obviously, the Colts are dealing with right now. Ben Roethlisberger's been hurt. Now we see Peyton Manning has that foot injury. You know, quarterbacks understand that a good quarterback play today in the NFL is at a premium. And they know that, you know, sometimes your superstar that's maybe 70, 80% is going to be a whole lot better than what anybody else has to offer. So I can definitely see that happening in Green Bay. Right now, it just feels like they have a little bit of an identity crisis. I mean, especially, you know, at the running back position where we see McCarthy says Eddie Lacy is now behind James Starks on the depth chart, even when fully healthy. You mentioned the receivers. Who is the go-to guy? And their defense. I mean, just things don't look like they're clicking like we're used to. We make a big deal about, you know, Clay Matthews moving around where he's best fitted, but right now it just doesn't seem like they know what they want to do. They're not capitalizing on it. I think a lot of it has to do with they don't know who they are and who they want to be. I think that's a big problem for a team that has so much talent going into the playoffs. Even, you know, you look at a team like Minnesota, and when you see, you know, they know who they are and what they want to be. And a lot of times when you go into the playoffs, that's the most important thing. And that's why right now I think I give Minnesota the edge just because they know who they are. And I think that they can be very successful doing what they like to do.
2 more games to go through before we get to the college locks. Chicago beat St. Louis 37-13. And I don't know which way to go on this. First off, thank the Lord for Jeremy Langford because he's the future of the Bears, and I couldn't be happier for that. You know, but you look at how the Bears have been playing this year. I mean, they aren't getting blown out like last year. Last year was one of the worst. One of the worst seasons I've ever had to go through as a Bears fan, or just was the worst season I ever went through. And St. Louis is a team that it seems like, Joe, the last 2-3 years, we keep saying they're going to turn a corner, It doesn't seem to be happening. I'm pretty sure I heard right that Nick Foles getting benched next week. The Bears made Nick Foles look awful. They're pretty much a one-man team with Todd Gurley running the ball. But the Chicago Bears are moving the ball on everybody. I mean, is this more a tale of John Fox kind of making the Bears semi-relevant, or St. Louis just being overrated from Joe?
Well, I buy into the notion that John Fox is a very good coach. I think he brings a lot of good things to a team, and sure, it took a little while for us to understand that with Chicago right now, but I like John Fox. I always have. I think he's a very good principled coach, and he knows what, you know, he has the basics down. When you have a guy like him, we were talking about Andy Reid earlier, it's such an advantage to have a guy that's been around so long, as opposed to what you saw last year in Mark Trestman, where coming from the CFL, you don't only have that NFL game experience, understanding what to do in certain situations. I think that's helping John Fox a lot, not only during the game, but game planning during the week. And we're seeing a whole lot of that with Chicago. They come out of the gates really just with a constructed game plan. They stick to it, and it works. And I think a lot of that has to do with game planning. So I'm definitely a big believer in John Fox. And the Rams, yeah, anytime you have a guy, Case Keenum, starting at quarterback, things are definitely going down.
Wow, it's just so bad. The last game I wanted to go over was New England. You can't really say they revenged the 2 Super Bowl losses to the Giants because you can't avenge those. They're Super Bowl losses. You won't get them back. But they beat the New York Giants. But what is it about Tom Coughlin? First off, he doesn't know how to manage the clock at the end of the game or hold the lead at the end of the game. He's blown, I think, 4 fourth-quarter leads this year already, you know. But what does he do in his crazy, like, mad scientist lab that he is, like, the one coach in the league that can go toe-to-toe with Bill Belichick? I don't get it.
No, it's really impressive. And you look at the players New York has this year, and it's just like it's nothing special. It's nothing that you haven't had in the past. But Tom Coughlin clearly knows how to call a game, and that was the narrative leading up all week. I think we kind of realized that, you know, the Giants are going to have a chance because of Tom Coughlin. For whatever reason, he knows how to counter these guys, and I think it showed again. They really did. I mean, I hate to say that they won the game, but, I mean, they had it won at the end of the game. It's just you're in a tough situation where do you score, do you not score, and the Patriots had just enough time left to get it done. But I think it's a massive win in the grand scheme of things for them. It's not going to take away anything, but, you know, they're in a close division. I think they're still the front runners right now. I think that was a little bit of a morale boost, even though you lose it. I know that's weird to say because in a close loss, you know, how can you have a morale boost? But they understand that they can play pretty much everybody tight when they're on. And I believe in the Giants. I really do. So it was a good sign for them. And in a close division, it doesn't hurt them too bad.
All right, Joe. It's just about that time.
You want to make money this weekend, right? Okay.
It's now time for the Heartthrob's College Football Locks.
I hope you people have been following my locks, and I hope you've been reading my weekly entry at gstelio.com called Beating Vegas. Because the last 2-3 weeks, we've been on fire. And last week was money in the bank pretty much all around. This week, we're going to start with Georgia at home, 14-point favorite against Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, to me, I understand they're 7-2, and they're the kind of team, Joe, that's pumping their chest out because they're 7-2. But look at who they played, and when they play a real team like West Virginia, who beat them 44-0, or when they play Appalachian State, who beat them 31-13, they have no answer for anybody. They can't score and they can't stop anybody. Georgia is typically the SEC disappointment every year, but they got so much talent on this team, and I even like their backup running back who took over for Nick Chubb, Sonny, what is it, Michael? I've been saying Michael, but it's Sonny Michel. Yeah, it's just a weird way to spell Michael. Yeah, it's just a weird way to spell Michael. But I really like Georgia over here. I think Georgia wins this big because Georgia wins big when it doesn't matter at the end of the year for them. They typically do that. So I like Georgia here at -14 as the first spot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Anytime you have an SEC team, I don't care who it is, against, Georgia Southern, it's probably going to be a win for the SEC team. And I hate to say that because you really do hate to take away from these smaller schools. But when you look at the record and everything, for me to pick a smaller school against an SEC team, especially like Georgia, they'd have to be 9-0. They'd have to be perfect, and they had to be proving that they'd be worthy of a high ranking. I mean, you look at Toledo. Well, that's a situation where you got a smaller school and MAC team, but they've done very well and proven they can do well against good opponents. I just really don't believe in Georgia Southern. I think they're a good team for where they play. It's great, but this week it just seems too easy. The 14 points seems to be pretty manageable for Georgia, so I'll take that in a heartbeat.
The next game I'm looking at is the Duke Blue Devils, a 2.5-point underdog going into Virginia. Now, I actually find out that Mike London, the Virginia head coach, is 10-38 against ACC opponents. That's just awful. The Virginia season is pretty much done. He's trying to play it out for his seniors. He's saying all the right things, but Virginia's been pretty disappointing this year. They were heavy on the seniors this year, and they just couldn't do it. You look at Virginia's defense; they've given up 1,700 rushing yards in 10 games this season, and they're allowing teams that's over 64% against them. Duke has just had bad luck in this 3-game losing streak. They had that loss that should have been a win against Miami. They got their butts kicked by UNC, which totally blindsided me, and they just look lost against Pitt. You've got to think Duke will get it together. They're too good of a team to lose 4 in a row, Joe. And if they're getting 2 points, I don't care where it is, I'll take Duke right now.
Yeah, well, when you look at Duke's losing streak, I mean, that's not fair to, like you said, I mean, look at the last 3 games. It's not fair. Duke's a very good football team. They've proven that in the past few years. They've just gotten so much better as a program, and those last 3 losses really are not indicative of their team because they have played well. And so I like Duke in this game. I completely agree with you. Virginia just doesn't have the it factor for me this year. I just can't seem to figure out what about them that you have to really love. I think Duke's more of a well-rounded team, and I think that's why I would pick them here.
My last lock of the week for college football, you're going to love this one, Joe. LSU, 4-point underdogs at Ole Miss. This is like old school G going right back at it. I'm going with Ole Miss over here, and for a very, very good reason. LSU is a one-man team, and that one man has been slowed down recently in Leonard Fournette. I will not take anything away from them. It's just that everybody's stacking the box, and LSU can't throw the ball. LSU plays with 2 wide receivers. They can't even spread people. Their offense is pretty much one-dimensional, and people are going all in on stopping the running attack right now. And not for nothing, they're going against an Ole Miss running rebel team. That only gives up 3.2 yards to carry and has only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns. And this is a team that's in their base defense doing this. They don't have to stack 8 in a box doing this. They have great defensive ends on this team, and we know what Ole Miss, they can score. They put up 40 a game. LSU has no chance in this game. I love Ole Miss -4.
Well, I think that here, for all the reasons you said, and more so, and for me, the more so would be when you have LSU, you look at their season right now and just what's the incentive to win? I mean, I know you always want to win every week, but there's so much more on the line for LSU, especially when you have a chance to get into the college football playoff. And right now, obviously, not seeming likely, if impossible. I mean, so right now they're in a situation where they're on the outside looking in. They're playing this game for what? I mean, you always want to win a game, but at this point, even Leonard Fournette, he's in this thing to try to stay healthy. We all know that. That's no secret. I mean, Leonard Fournette, best running back in the game, he's in it just so he can make the NFL, and he's not going to give 110% effort giving all the circumstances. And maybe that's an unfair thing to say, but I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to bring up the notion that Leonard Fournette at LSU right now, what does he have to play at 100%, 110%. I mean, what does he have to lose? Everything. So in my case, I think, because it is a one-man show, because it is so much Leonard Fournette, and the odds are, it's not even the odds stacked against him. It's the fact that when you put all the situations together, like I am right now with screaming babies and terminal ladies screaming the robots up there, so I apologize for that. But no, when you just put it all together, I just don't believe in this. So I completely agree with you. Ole Miss is the team I would pick as I slowly put my phone on mute.
Let me put your phone on. I barely heard the kid, but it's fine. All right, looking at the college slate this week real quick. Friday night has a game that, I don't know, maybe I'm the sucker because I will take this bet, Joe, but Air Force is an 11-point underdog going to Boise State, dreadful in the red zone the last 3 weeks, and Air Force is one of the best offenses in the league. Granted, they're one-dimensional, but people can't seem, except for, I think, Navy, which is almost cheating because it's almost looking at the other team's playbook when it's Navy, but it looks like nobody can really stop this running game that Air Force has. I'm pretty sure that at one point this year they were between Baylor and LSU, I think, for rushing offenses, and they're getting 11 points here. I got to take this, especially as you saw Boise blow opportunity after opportunity last week in the red zone against New Mexico.
Sure. Well, let me tell you something. I mean, when I look at this game, I have lost, and I've circled this before you even said it, before you even showed me it, because to be completely honest, I have lost all my faith in Boise State. I really have. I mean, this is a team that just doesn't speak to me, quote unquote, but it doesn't. I mean, when you look at Boise State, they're a team that does have a lot of talent, but it's one of those typical situations in college football where you watch them every week thinking you're going to see this electric performance. And like you alluded to, they just can't cash in. I mean, I've seen it over and over and over again this year where you want Boise State to be something that they're not. And what's nice about Air Force here is that you really know what Air Force is, and they're going to do it very well because they run their offense very methodically, and they have the players in place, and they stick to the script. Sometimes you have to do that. For me, Boise State has that script, but they just can't come to the end. They can't close when it counts. I think that's the advantage to Air Force. So it's funny you bring this one up because I have Air Force winning too. This is one of the games I'm really excited to watch because I think people are going to really appreciate what that Air Force offense does. Against the Boise State team, quite frankly, I just don't believe it.
Now, let me tell you, they're 11-point underdog. That's plus 300 on the money line. That's a big payout for anybody. So, I mean, so I'm going to be all over that Air Force game, all over it. Moving on. Sorry, I kind of was just staring at that game for a second. And, wow, there's really not a lot of good games this weekend. Really not. You got North Carolina going at Virginia Tech. North Carolina's been killing everybody. I mean, there's no reason why to go against North Carolina. They're a 6.5-point favorite over here, Joe. I love them. North Carolina is looking better and better every week.
Sorry about that. See, this is the flaw thing at Airport. No, North Carolina for me right now is a team that I just do like from North Carolina because you have a situation where I understand they're underperforming in many ways, where you have Williams at the quarterback position and they're tough. But you have to understand that when you have a North Carolina team like this, any team really, just ACC, SEC, whatever you want to believe, they're guys that are just well-rounded. I mean, North Carolina, they came to this year with a ton of expectations, and I know they haven't capitalized on every situation, but they're a good team. They know what they want to do, and they believe in themselves. So I like North Carolina here simply because you just know what you're going to get. It might not be excellent, but they're going to be good enough. It's one of those high-ceiling, low-floors kind of situations.
Interesting games right now. I found about 5 games worth talking about. Baylor going into Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has all the momentum going right now. Baylor's coming off their first loss, which I predicted last week. I kind of see this as almost a trap game for Oklahoma State, though. I think Baylor could still score. Baylor could still put a point. I'm not overly impressed with Oklahoma State. I think a lot of people are going to take Oklahoma State, but I think I'm leaning towards Baylor over here.
I tell you what, this is all about momentum for me. I believe in it so much when you come to college football. I believe in the momentum, and even if it's, Baylor, Oklahoma State, I don't care who it is. Who has the momentum is who I'm going to lean with, just because I think that plays so much more of a role than we ever think it does. I love Oklahoma State here. Baylor is just coming off of this terrible skid where they can't do anything right. Even when they win, the college football committee still doesn't believe in them enough. So what do they have against an LSU situation? You win, but you really can't do anything to help yourself. So I think Oklahoma State over here, pretty big in my opinion.
Staying in the Big 12, there's no line yet because no one knows about the injury to Trayvon Boykin and his receiver Dotson yet. But TCU going into Oklahoma. I'm going to take it. Even if they are healthy, Oklahoma's got to be the favorite here. I really like Oklahoma. I like to play their quarterback. And let me tell you, Oklahoma has – and their secondary was really annoying Baylor. You know, they were deflecting a lot of passes. I really like Oklahoma. I mean, maybe, just maybe, Bob Stoops has something finally in an Oklahoma team this year.
Completely agree with you here again. I mean, TCU, guys, it's kind of like Baylor. I mean, they're in the same boat. I know we kind of lump those two together, and I think Oklahoma's a team that's on the steady rise right now. That's what you got to like about them, and I keep alluding to this momentum thing, but it's just the truth. I mean, they're on that rise where you got to love them because they have so much to play for right now. For me, TCU, they know their season's crumbling. You saw the injury to Boykin last week. I just like Oklahoma, and like you said, Bob Stoops, he's got to get it going. I mean, Bob Stoops is funny because he's a great coach. I really believe that, but one of those things where not a lot of people believe in him just because of some of the things in his past track record, but I like him here. I think the Oklahoma team is better than they have been this year. I think they get the win.
I think the thing that always haunts Bob Stoops is the Statue of Liberty play to Boise State and losing that way to that team. I think that will always haunt Bob Stoops, you know, so he'll never avoid that. Michigan State, Ohio State in the Big Ten. Ohio State's a 13-point favorite over here. I mean, I've been hard on Michigan State. I've been hard on Ohio State, too, even though they were one of my locks last week. And I took Ohio State first half and game, covered both. I got to take Michigan State over here because I got to take both these teams haven't been overly impressive, Joe. And I got to take Michigan State over here just out of respect for 13-point underdogs.
Oh, I think with the points, you got to take Michigan State. I quite frankly, I don't believe in either of these two teams, and we've talked about them both extensively this year. It's just that there's not much to love about either one. I think both are, and not that there's not too much to love, but they're just so high in the rankings that really the play doesn't indicate and really they haven't deserved the role that they've gotten, especially Ohio State. For my opinion, I think this is an easy game for me. Taking Michigan State with the points, and honestly, I'm taking them to win this game. I believe in Michigan State and where they are in the rankings more than I do Ohio State where they are. I think that comes into play here. Michigan State needs to win to prove that they're still on top. So does Ohio State. I just don't think they can do it. They've been too high all year. I think this is the week it comes back to haunt them.
UCLA going into Utah. UCLA is a 2-point underdog. I like UCLA here because I think the Utah thing is done.
Yeah, two underwhelming teams. I think we both kind of had a little higher expectations, especially Utah earlier in the year. I'll stick with them, though. I like the Utes. I think they have a good team. Just things haven't especially gone well for them when they needed to this year. So I know they were so high earlier, but I think they're the better team. I take Utah.
All right, and of course, but before you leave today, we'll get your thoughts on the MAC games tonight: Toledo versus Bowling Green, Ball State, Ohio University. But for now, are we gonna take a short break? Man, I guess not, because we've got like 2 minutes left on this stream, and I don't want to waste your time. So yeah, I guess talk about these MAC games real quick. Tonight's MAC game, you got Toledo, a 7-point underdog against Bowling Green. I like Bowling Green, but I kind of always take Bowling Green, so I'm taking them again today. I like Bowling Green.
Yeah, this is tough. Bowling Green has that great quarterback whose name's eluding me right now, but they're a good team. I just like Toledo overall. I think they have a lot to love. Their running back, Hunt's a very good player. I like Toledo. I kind of talked about them earlier, but I think they're kind of the sleeper underdog pick for me. So I think I'll go with Toledo. And I know Bowling Green's got a great offense, but I think Toledo's more well-rounded. For me, in those kind of games, I like that. I like the team that I can trust doing more things as well as they do, and I think Toledo's that team. So I'll take them.
Matt Johnson, I think, the quarterback?
Yep.
Yeah. Even though you know me, I was all about that backup kid, Justin Canty, who came in last year. I liked him a lot. Yeah, I liked him a lot. He actually followed me back on Twitter, the kid. He's hilarious, actually.
There you go.
Yeah. And the last game tonight, before we go to the NFL picks and a short break, Ball State at Ohio University. I'm going with Ohio University over here. I'm not into Ball State like I was last year.
Well, a couple of reasons for this. Got a good buddy that goes to Ohio, so I'll take them. But quarterback Darius Vick, really good player, athletic. They have a lot of talent. That offense is stacked, and they sometimes don't show it, but Ohio's going to be good for a couple of years to come. So shout out to Kyle Velak, receiver over there. Good player, but I'll take Ohio game. Kind of underrated, so hopefully people get to see that tonight.
Absolutely. Right now, me and Joe are going to take a short break, and we'll come back with our NFL picks against the spread, because that's how we do. So bear with us. Welcome back to the only show that matters. I am the Heartthrob G.W. Gras. He is the future of all sports media, Joe Wedra. Yeah, you know what I realized, Joe, before I get into the NFL things, I've been trying to set up like I'm not going to set it up, but trying to play a pickup football game, for the last 3 weeks. And we finally got the guys. I'm going to play. I said, I'm only playing if I'm quarterback, so I'm not trying to hurt myself. But they want to play the game at 2 o'clock, man. And Ole Miss starts at 3:30, and Ole Miss is my big money game this week, so I may have to just stay home instead of going out with my friends. Isn't that? I don't know. I think I'm getting old. I think I'm really just getting old, Joe.
Well, I would say 2 things here. I would say you have a big conundrum on your hands that you got to figure out. But at the end of the day, I think about this. Friends last a little while, but football, sports last a lifetime. Maybe that's why I don't have too many friends. Gee, it's just that, so friends, they stick around for a little while, a couple of years, but, sports last forever. So just try to stick with that when you go into this. I think, you got to go with what's loyal to you, and I think sports have been pretty loyal to you over the years.
Yes, they have been, It's just it's that ego I got that I know I'm good.
Of course.
So it's that heartthrob ego that I just and a lot of these guys are younger than me too, so I kind of want to really get on them. But but whatever. Whatever though. Let's move on. You know what? Let's get this game out of the way because the NFL is going to shove it down our throats Thursday night. We got the Tennessee Titans 3-point underdog going into Jacksonville. Give me Jacksonville because I actually like Blake Bortles. He's a little quirky, I guess, at times. I don't know. He's kind of unorthodox, but I kind of like him. All right, he's very energetic. He's fun to watch, Blake Bortles, and he has 2 great receivers, 2 young receivers he can throw with. And let's not forget that Marquise Lee hasn't even been playing, because they really have 3 really good wide receivers that they can throw with. And a lot of people got to look at T.J. Yeldon. His numbers aren't blowing people away, but it's because of that offensive line. Look at how Yeldon plays, Joe. Very patient behind the blockers. Just a very mature kind of running. I really like T.J. Yeldon. And I think Jacksonville has to stick with him, for the future. Tennessee has nothing in the backfield. They got a plethora of garbage behind Marcus Mariota. I think Kendall Wright stopped playing. That means we might see some more Dorial Green Beckham, but I like Jacksonville over here. Just more firepower over here because it's going to be a shootout. They got no defense on either side.
Perhaps the most interesting thing here, is you look at the color rush uniforms. Have you seen them yet? They're pretty cool. I like the thing that the NFL's doing that last weekend. I tell you, it looked like a Christmas tree out there. You had the Jets and the Bills.
Yeah, it did.
That all that green, all red. It's interesting. So I'm interested to see how bad they are this week. But when you look at this game, I like Tennessee a little bit more. And I watched Jacksonville last week, obviously, against the Ravens. And it's just Blake Bortles doesn't make the throws necessary down the field that is going to win him the game. I think what Marcus Mariota's strength right now is that he's very good intermediate. And for a young kid, a rookie, he does that very well. He's a great intermediate passer. But, again, we go back to Teddy Bridgewater, and here's the flaw with Tennessee is that you have Teddy Bridgewater who has the running backs and the defense. Tennessee, Marcus Mariota, it's almost like he's on an island right now. And I think that it's going to get better as the years go on because they will build around him. But for now, it is tricky. You kind of have to rely on what he does best. I think that limits you to what you have. So I'm going to take Tennessee here because I believe in Mariota, oddly enough, a bit more than Bortles right now. I just think he's in a state of limbo where he's not sure where he needs to be, wants to be. I know he has the receivers to do it, but I like Mariota's intermediate passing game, and I'll bank on a couple more big plays with him than I will with Jacksonville, who just I don't believe in right now.
Over-under is really low at 43. I don't know. I love the over in this game.
I'll take the over.
Yeah, I love the over in this game. Washington Redskins. This is actually a very interesting game, and not just because of last week. I've been saying every week I like the way the Redskins play. They play gritty defense. They have a very underrated corner in Breland, and they're going against the Carolina Panthers now, who don't have a lot on the wide receiver side of things. They have some pretty mobile linebackers to say with Greg Olsen. This is going to be a tougher game for Carolina than people think. I like Washington +7 over here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I look at Carolina often. I think we have a tendency to underrate them just because they don't have an electric offense, and I think that comes back to hurt them when we make predictions. But I've learned very much so this year that you just can't root and can't pick against these guys. Cam Newton finds a way to get it done. I don't care what weapons he has on offense. I just, when you look at consistency and for consistency's sake, I got to take the Panthers over here. I think they have too much of a structured team right now, and Ron Rivera knows what he wants to do, and they're running what they do very well right now. Washington, I feel like last week, obviously, was a bit of an aberration with Kirk Cousins and the way the offense was so much. And sure, it was maybe a one-time thing. I don't think they get blown out here. I agree with you that I keep it close. I guess I would go with the Panthers -7 just because I do believe in them, and I've learned this year that you don't want to pick against these guys because I think they're better than they were last year, albeit the wide receiver options are a bit slim. I just think Cam Newton's the guy this year. I'm full force believing this is the year of Newton. I don't know. I know you like him, right? You like him. I think I'll take them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers win this. I just think the Redskins keep it close. That's it. Yeah. Oakland Raiders. I'm still not sure where to go with the Oakland Raiders. I know where to go with the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions are at home, a 1.5-point underdog. I can't see the Lions beating Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr in back-to-back weeks. So give me Derek Carr to travel to Detroit. Not a long travel. They're indoors. I think the Raiders win this one by 10 or 11 points.
Call me fickle, whatever you want to do. I got Martha Ford. I believe in her a little bit. She was feisty at that press conference. She had me believing that she was for real about the future of this team. They came out last week playing for Martha maybe a little bit, but I don't know. I never thought this Lions team was as bad as they were. We talked about this so many times. Jim Caldwell, just not the guy there. I think they have the weapons to do whatever they want to do, to be quite honest. I just think that they don't know how to put it all together. So much of the conversation that I like to throw in is just putting it all together, going in with the game plan, and sticking to it. And that's so important when you look, especially the NFL. College football, not so much. You rely a lot on skill, but the NFL, the talents are so even and baseline that you have to have that coaching to put you over the edge. So, I'm going to go with the Lions here. I think that Matthew Stafford can have one of his trademark big games against an Oakland secondary that's just, quite frankly, not very good.
Wow, you and me have not agreed on one thing yet.
No, we have not.
All right, the Dallas Cowboys anticipating the return of Tony Romo, and he's going to Miami. The game is a pick right now. That's because Dallas' defense is just horrendous. But with Romo back, and they haven't rushed Romo back either, which is key. So I'm expecting Romo to be at least 90-95%. And if that's the case, then Romo and his offense will put up points, because that's just what Tony Romo does. And props to Darren McFadden, who hasn't broken a leg or something or a hip yet. He's been starting every game, and good for him. I got to go with Dallas. Miami stinks. I can't stand Miami or their fans. We went through this 2 weeks ago. But Dallas, Dallas.
Well, I think a lot of people bought into that Dan Campbell hype a bit too much. I understand you get the fresh face in there. We've seen it a couple times working, but that doesn't change that this Miami team is wildly inconsistent. It starts with Ryan Tannehill. It starts with the offensive line in particular. I just think they're too inconsistent right now. And with Dallas coming back, Tony Romo is exactly what they need. I know they're kind of on the outside looking in, but, again, you look at that division, and there's still a chance for them to potentially pull ahead. Week 16, week 17, they just have to win. It's basic. I would say maybe fate is in their hands a little bit, because as long as they win out with Tony Romo, that's possible. We've all seen that and what that offense can do. They're just more believable right now. I think Romo's return sparked something in them. I'd like to believe that they still have a chance, and I know surely they do. And Tony Romo's a big part of that. He wants to come back to try to help this team get momentum, and I think that's what it's all about. So, definitely, I'm all aboard. If it were Brandon Weeden, I'd definitely take Miami. But you just have to look for consistency's sake. I think Tony Romo's, over Ryan Tannehill, that's an easy pick for me.
What is this? I'm looking at.
Particularly, hold on real quick. That offensive line too. The battle between Dallas's offensive line and Miami's offensive line. It really can't be understated how much Dallas wins that battle.
True indeed. And let me say, Tony Romo coming back. Ben Roethlisberger looked good from his comeback from an injury, and my Super Bowl hope is still alive. Still alive.
It is.
Still alive. All right. Going into the next one, you got the Indianapolis Colts, who are in danger right now of not winning this division by default. 6-point underdog going into Atlanta. Atlanta's so weird, man. I really don't know what Atlanta is, but I know what Indianapolis is. And I know Hasselbeck had 2 wins at quarterback, but I know what they are as a team. I'm going with the Falcons over here, even with the -6. I got to believe in that. I got to believe the Falcons cover a 6-point spread against a bad team like Indianapolis.
Man, we really are off this week. This is the one of the few weeks where usually we agree a lot on things, and especially with college football. But this week it's been definitely a bit of an outside thing here. I like the Colts in this game because I'm buying into it. I'm one of those guys. I buy into the Matthew Hasselbeck thing. I love quarterbacks. I just love him. I think Matthew Hasselbeck is such a grinder. He's a gamer. And just this Falcons team, I know I keep going back, so I'm going to get tweets about how I mentioned consistency 20 times in this podcast, but it's all about consistency, man. And in the NFL, especially with this Falcons team right now, they have so much talent, but they just can't put together consistent play. And it's very frustrating to try to pick with them against them every week just because you never know what you're going to get. For me right now, I know what the Colts are, and I know you don't love them very much, but I know what they can be with a quarterback that's not hurt. I believe in them. I have from the start. You've got to go with the Colts here for me just because I do believe that they're a good football team. In Atlanta, if they're even slightly off, oddly as it sounds, Matthew Hasselbeck's going to take advantage.
One of the worst games of the week, and I really hate to say this to you, Joe, but it's the St. Louis Rams, 2.5-point underdog going into Baltimore. Wow, over-under is at 41. I think that's generous right now. I don't even know where to go. I honestly don't think the Ravens can stop them early. Wow, St. Louis is bad quarterback play. The Ravens just looked awful. I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards the Rams over here.
Oh, man, you're going to do that to me. Well, this one, of course, we're going to pick oppositely because I'm not going against the Ravens to go eight losses here. But I will say this, though. There's one thing they can do. It's stop the run, and all the focus is going to be on that. They're going to let Case Keenum beat them, and that's just a funny statement in itself. I think the majority is going to be play 7, 8, maybe sometimes 9 men in the box to stop Gurley and just pick your receivers. I think the Ravens secondary can stop the Rams one-on-one on the outside, especially with Case Keenum. I think you're going to play a lot of men in the box to stop Gurley. I don't know. At home, it just seems too easy to pick the Ravens for me because, Case Keenum. I keep going back to that. It's Case Keenum. We can't argue that. I know he's had his flashes, but bottom line, Ravens at home with desperately needing a win to stay alive because, hey, that wild card race is still open. They know that, so they're not trying any less than they would have. I like the Ravens solely because I think they're going to game plan towards Todd Gurley, and I think that at the end of the day, that'll favor their game.
The New York Jets and Houston Texans, there is no line on this game. I don't care what the line is. I'm taking the Jets because if it's TJ8 or if it's Brian Hoyer against that Jets defense, I will take it time and time again. And I'm actually rooting for the Texans. Yeah, you know me, I'm a Bill O'Brien guy, but I think the Jets are just way too much talent on this team to lose to a team that's not as talented as they are, especially at the quarterback position. I'm not saying Fitzpatrick is great, but he has better weapons to work with as a whole because the Texas running game is just depressing. I'll take the Jets over here.
Yeah, bottom line, you look at both of these rosters, and especially when I look at last night's game against the Bengals for the Texans, they really didn't win that game. The Bengals just played like the playoff Bengals have. That's bad. That's just the bottom line. And the Bengals have played. That's what we've come to expect from them in big primetime games. And it's not only Andy Dalton. It just seems to be the recurring trend for this team is they just can't show up when it counts. So I really, how can you give the win to St. Louis there when at the end of the day you're talking about a Bengals team that just underperformed? Houston. This airport baby's got me again. No, the Jets have so much talent right now. Just got to go with them. Top Bowls, they're hanging on for a chance. Prime spot for a wild card. They just have to win. They know that, and I think this is a pretty easy win for them.
Green Bay Packers are a 1-point underdog going into Minnesota. Now, the way I'm looking at this is that Vegas must know something, and as Lee Corso says on College Game Day, somebody somewhere knows something, and I'm going with the somebodies. I'm going with the Vikings here for no other reason except the Packers should be a 3-point road favorite over here just because. And I'm going Minnesota over here because maybe Minnesota is better than I think they are, and the Packers just will lose 4 in a row. I'm going with the Vikings over here.
Well, hey, we talked about this at the onset. This is the matchup I want to see. For me, this is the game of the week because this could be the decider in who goes to the NFC Championship game against the Panthers. For me, I think it's boiled down to these 3 teams. I love all 3 of them. I really do. I love the Packers and what they can be. Again, it comes back to Minnesota. I think they know what they're doing, and I just like them. It's really hard for me to pick against them given the circumstances leading up to this game. They're playing better football than Green Bay is right now. Momentum. Minnesota certainly got it. So I believe in Teddy Bridgewater. This is where he can show that he can take that next step and win a big game like this. They win this game, you're looking at them as a contender. So I think this is a big one for them. If they can get it, they're automatically thrust into the Super Bowl, the conversation. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota and say that Bridgewater, finally makes that point to the NFL that, hey, I'm one of these young rookie quarterbacks too, and just because I have good teams around me doesn't mean I can't do it. So I'm going with the Vikings here.
Interesting game over here. You got the Tampa Bay Bucks against the Philadelphia Eagles. No line on this game. I think the health of Sam Bradford's in question. I'll go with the Bucks over here. Just because, I'm going with the Bucks just for the same reason you went with the Tennessee Titans, because I just like the rookie quarterback. That's the reason I'm doing it. All right, I'm going Tampa Bay over here against the Eagles.
Yeah, sure. I think when you look at the rookie quarterbacks, it's just there is upside because every week something new can happen, and I think that's kind of good for Tampa Bay right now. I think they're going to continue to improve. Jameis Winston, the decision-making is obviously the only concern right now, and I think that does improve. And this is a tough game. Philadelphia, you want to believe in them so much. I want to believe in them just because they were my Super Bowl pick. And, I mean, when you look at this team, they should be so much better. I think that preseason really got us hyped up for something that just wasn't realistic. We should have known that coming out of the onset, but we're very believable fans nowadays, and especially me. I totally bought into this Chip Kelly system. You just can't believe in it right now. They really don't know. It's not sustainable, and especially with Sam Bradford news, I believe he may be out for this one, so it is Mark Sanchez going in. So, hey, maybe Mark Sanchez can get something going, but if you're going to bet on anything, it's certainly not in Philadelphia this game.
Big game this week, and I'm not just saying that because it's my Bears, but there's a lot of revenge factor. We were talking about that before. You got John Fox and Jay Cutler going against their old team, the Denver Broncos. The Bears are at home. The game is at a pick right now, and not for nothing. The Bears are known for having one of the worst fields in the NFL, one of the top 3 worst fields in the NFL, and the Bears are staying in every game, defensively, offensively. You got to love what Adam Gase is doing with Cutler. Dude, I'm doing it. I'm going with the Bears over here to beat the Broncos. I mean, it's a pick 'em, and I like it over here. And I know the Broncos' defense is crazy, but that Denver offense is what's shaky right now, and they're putting a lot of pressure on that defense, and they're going against the Adam Gase offense. And the offensive line is not as shaky as it was years ago. And Gase is all about getting the ball out quickly, getting the ball out. I'm liking it over here, man. I like Chicago's chances.
Yeah, well, hey, you're going to be thrilled with my pick, then, because I'm going with Chicago as well. There's something special about these guys. I was looking at the schedule moving forward, and if they can win one of these next 2 tough games, and Denver's clearly now in a spot where you can win this one because of the Peyton Manning news, you can win one of these next 2. It's a very good chance they can win out and potentially make a run at one of these wild card spots. I know that's crazy, and I know that's maybe a bit of, wishful thinking right now, but hey, why not? They need to get one of them out of the way, so why not beat Denver? I think that this is a team playing very well right now. Jay Cutler, man, he's got me believing. I know I hated on him in the past, but Jay Cutler, Brock Osweiler, I know the defense, but this Denver team, the momentum, not even the momentum, just I think the overall feeling with these guys right now is that they're pressing. They're really pressing for their quarterback, and sometimes that's dangerous. Chicago right now, it's just go out there and do what you can to win. Sometimes that's the team you got to go with. So, yeah, give me the Bears.
All right, then Cincinnati Bengals going into Arizona to play the Cardinals. The Cardinals' defense is kind of shaky, and I don't know why. They have a lot of talent, especially in their secondary. I mean, this isn't a team you want to throw a lot on, but for some reason their defense should be better. You look at the names on that roster, the defense should be better. They're going against Cincinnati team that was pretty much shut down offensively. We saw Andy Dalton become old Andy Dalton. We saw Tyler Eifert become, I don't know what that was last night. Tyler Eifert looked awful. He's been playing as one of the best tight ends in the league. You got to go with Arizona here. And let me tell you, really, really big shout out to Michael Floyd, who in the last 3 weeks, he's been 100% healthy, and he's becoming that number 1 option again in that offense. I love Michael Floyd. And this is a team, Arizona, much like Pittsburgh, there's so many weapons on that offense that they could give the ball off to, short passes, deep routes. They spread out any defense, even a good one. And they have a very good quarterback. I like Arizona over here.
Yeah, hey, that's really fair. I mean, I think that you can make a very good case for Arizona, and especially, not only just making a case for Arizona, but, particularly making a case against the Bengals. I mean, what we saw last night is not going to get out of our heads anytime soon, just because we've seen it so many times with Andy Dalton and a Marvin Lewis-led team. They let you down when you think they can easily win a game, and especially in the playoffs, especially in prime time. So, you know what? Give me the Cardinals here. It's really tricky because you want to say the Bengals maybe can come back to that regular season form that we've become, known as them and Andy Dalton bouncing back after a loss. But last night really concerned me, and I think right now I got to go with the Cardinals team that I believe in a bit more because I think they're more well-rounded right now at this point of the season.
The 49ers enter this week as the biggest underdog. We only got 3 more games, Joe, and I can let you go. We'll do this real quick. 49ers are a 12.5-point underdog going into Seattle. I know it's a rivalry game, but it was a made-up rivalry game, so I'm going with Seattle over here. I think Seattle wins this one probably 21-7, I would say, Seattle.
Yeah, I don't know. These games are tricky for me. Seattle always seems to play it close with their division opponents. And to San Francisco, no, not a very good team, and they don't know what they want to do, and they're just kind of playing for the number one pick, it seems like right now, for one of those teams in that situation. I like Seattle, but I don't think they're going to cover. They always keep these games close. It's very frustrating to watch. They're never good games. They probably win, squeak it out, but I'm not convinced of Seattle at all.
Yeah, you know why I take Seattle? Their special teams actually magnificent still. You know, their special teams is still really good.
Well coached.
You know, and it puts their team in better spots. You know, and that's why I think it's Seattle. I never say that's not a Lee Corso thing. Talking about special teams. Kansas City Chiefs 3-point favorite going into San Diego. I think this one's kind of like a trap game for gamblers. I'm taking San Diego as a 3-point home underdog here. A lot of people are going to be looking at the Chiefs and what they did last week. I'm still not a big believer in the Chiefs. I still think Phillip Rivers is a top-tier quarterback no matter who he plays and who he plays without. So I'll take San Diego as the home underdog here.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think you can make the argument for Phillip Rivers, but I don't believe in the team as a whole. I think we talked about this earlier with Kansas City, that if they do win this game, it's such a momentum propeller towards the future because they can continue to stack wins and be in the race. So I like Kansas City. I do. I know they've had their issues this year, but just San Diego, so underwhelming, and they've underperformed too many times this year. They just can't come up in the clutch. And because I think it's a close game, I think that favors Kansas City and the way they play.
Last game, Monday Night Football, Rex Ryan and the Bills, 7-point underdog going into New England. This is a tough one because I really like what the Bills do. I think Tyrod Taylor could cause a little bit of mishaps against New England. New England is suspect over the middle of the field. I don't know where to go on this one, actually.
This is really tricky, too, for me. I was kind of going over this, too, because you want to say the Bills, maybe they're going to be that week 1, week 2 Buffalo Bills that we come to love, really. I love watching that team, but then you also have the Buffalo Bills. It's a tale of two teams right now, and I think we all know that. So, yeah, I guess I got to go with New England. I don't know what the spread is, but I got to go with New England just because.
7.
7. Oh, well, yeah, I think that, you know, on a night game like this, I just can't see Tom Brady underperforming. He did it once against Kansas City, and he knows that he can't with you know, it's New England. That's the bottom line. It's New England. I got to take them in this game.
You know what? I think I got to lean the Bills over here for 2 reasons. Rex Ryan, like, even with a bad Jets team, like, he kept those games close against New England. You know, like, he knows how to rattle Tom Brady a little bit more than other people know how to do it. And on top of that, it's Monday Night Football where the weirdest things happen on Monday Night Football year in, year out. So I'll go with the Bills +7, but I'll lean the Patriots win this game. That's it for this week, Joe, with the NFL picks. Right, you're going to be around for next week?
Absolutely. You know it.
All right, cool deal. We'll probably knock that one out on Tuesday of next week, because next week is the best holiday, in my opinion, ever. Thanksgiving. That's my favorite holiday, Joe. You know, because I always make it a 5-day weekend for my job too, and I start drinking beer at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I don't stop till 11 o'clock at night. My family ends up hating me by like 8:30 because I'm just belligerent, but I'm a fun belligerent. I just want to hug everybody at that time. But the Bears play. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see like what kind of drunk I'll be by the end of the night. But anyway, let's not talk about my alcoholic issues. Thanks, Joe, for coming on this week. We'll tune in again next week. Have a safe flight, brother, and I'll tell everybody where they can find you.
Hey, sounds good. I appreciate you putting up with me and all the background noise here. Follow me on Twitter at Joe Wedra. You know all the good stuff. I got to get out of here, but I appreciate it, G. Have a great weekend.
Be good, brother. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and check out the .com website, GSteelio, GWESTEELIO. I'm going to try to do another podcast this week. My schedule has been crazy. It really has. But I got some stuff I just want to talk about. So y'all bear witness, man. Later.